City Plate Podcast, presented by Bienville Bites Food Tour. The Port City Plate Podcast is serving up the food, history, and people of Mobile, Alabama for people who love the Port City. I'm your host, Chris Andrews, and today on the podcast we have Chef Wade Price. Wade is the chef and owner at Mobile's hottest new restaurant, Slurp Society. Slurp Society opened in November of 2022 as Mobile's first ramen shop, and since then has really been the talk of the food scene, I think, in Mobile. Chef Wade, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. So, this is really kind of our first time, meeting each other. I've known about you for a while, and, I know Nick from Eating Alabama, the Eating Alabama podcast. I know he had you on and had me on also that same weekend he was down here, and that was kind of where I, been following you since then. That's been a while,
Yeah,
so,
that was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yep, and I know a lot's changed with you since then, but I appreciate you coming on, and I'm excited to, get to know you a little bit better, and I think our listeners are going to enjoy this episode too, because like I said, everybody that I've talked to has been to Slurp Society, loves Slurp Society. You've kind of been the talk of the town, so.
Yeah, it definitely blew up in a way that I didn't anticipate, which is great. It was, we knew we were going to be busy from the jump, from the reaction that we had on, social media, but I mean, it's been wild for sure. I mean, I really, really appreciate the support because, we're packed every day.
No doubt. And it's tough, man. It's tough. I don't see a lot of the new restaurants get as much social media interaction as y'all have gotten. It's tough to start a new restaurant in Mobile.
Yeah. I mean, it's that people definitely embraced us with open arms, which was great. I mean, we've been super lucky with the launch for sure.
Yeah. So, what's your background? Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up here, Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my family. I was born in West Palm Beach, Florida. We came over here when I was really young, so pretty much born and raised here for sure.
Yeah. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Faith Academy.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I got some friends out there. How did you get started? Interested in cooking, or did you grow up in the kitchen? Parents grew up in the kitchen, anything like that?
Yeah, I feel like it kind of always captivated me. I don't think I never saw it as being a career necessarily. It was just my mom was really into Food Network, and my mom is a really good cook, and I was always kind of helping her in the kitchen from being super little. So it just kind of came about after I left school. I was just didn't know really what I wanted to do, and I took a year off in between high school, and I just started working in restaurants. And my dad pretty much said, hey, you really like watching these cooking shows, you really like cooking, why don't you try going to culinary school? So, I went to culinary school at Virginia College when it was open, and from there the rest is kind of history.
Yeah. Where was your first job at?
Where was my first job at? That's a tough one. That's tough. My first was I definitely had a externship from culinary school at True back in the day when it was on Duru Drive, and then I think Macaroni Grill might have been the very first thing I ever did, real kitchen job, and I worked there for a bit. But I've kind of bounced around a lot of restaurants here in town. I worked at Noja and the Battle House, and I was just a bunch of places around here for sure. It's hard to keep track after you've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. Well, you've got a real creative menu, and I wanted to get into that too. But so, where do you think some of that creativity comes from? Was it Food Network? Was it some of the restaurants you worked in? Where do you think some of that creativity came from?
I think really the creative. I've always been a creative person my whole life. So I was really into. I was in bands when I was when I was a kid, and loved to read, and that really expanded my mind, and loved to write and all that stuff. So I always, when something really interests me, I really dive in, fully. So with food, it was really cookbooks and stuff. It was, just cookbooks. I would just read and absorb and digest, and that just turned into, my natural creativity coupled with that, and like studying different like cultures and stuff and traveling, kind of just all condensed into, what I do now,
Right.
So, and at the end of the day, I just like cooking food that I like and tastes good, and that's really the goal.
Yeah. I know you got your start. First restaurant was Serial Killer over in Fairhope. It was over in the Mill. How did you determine that you wanted to make that jump? Like, how did you go from working in the restaurants, in the kitchen, to making that jump to become a restaurant owner?
I mean, I've always kind of marched to the beat of my own drum. It's always been a goal. Like, I was that kid who, I was selling stuff to kids in school and getting in trouble for it, and always trying to like make a buck. So, right from the jump, when I got into cooking, I knew that I wanted to own my own thing, which probably really annoyed people that I worked with, because I was a cocky little, idiot who all I talked about was, I'm going to own this someday, So with Serial Killer, that kind of just came about because I worked for Ox Kitchen that was in there for a little bit, and the Mill changed owners, and Ox moved from that little spot in the corner, like across the way. And, the spot was open, and Bo Hamilton, the owner, just so happened to tell the new owners about me. And, I approached them with an idea. And back then I approached them with doing like a little ramen concept out of there. And they told me no, that they wanted to do something for breakfast. And I'm like, I'm always working on like different concepts. You just have like notebooks full of them. And when they said breakfast, I happened to have like, kind of like a little idea for like a brunch kind of place. And I was like, oh, well, I can do this. And they were like, oh, okay, well, let's give it a shot. And they just kind of went from there.
Yeah. Well, I know, like I said, when I mentioned about your creativity, I mean, you really showed some of that creativity when you were a serial killer. What were some of the menu items that were just really creative at that time?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like, I think Serial Killer was definitely born out of like my ego a little bit. Like, I was like, I came in there and I was like, oh, I'm gonna change, the food scene in Fairhope. That was like the idea, and like that just didn't go over super well. But like the dishes that like I really liked that were really creative were, we did like a buttered toast ramen there that was a big seller for like a short time. That we would make like a ramen broth like out of ham hocks and stuff, and then we would take buttered toast and like literally blend it into the broth and like strain it out, and then top it off with like a 6-minute egg and like bacon and like scallions and like a compound butter. So like it kind of tasted like you're eating like a bacon, egg, and cheese was the idea. And we were also doing we called it a Benny bao, which was bao buns topped with like a sous vide egg and like a smoked Gouda fondue and kimchi, and it was like kind of our take like on an eggs Benedict. But Fairhope's a much more like classic area for sure, so the creativity didn't play as well.
Yeah, it does feel more like a sandwich burger
sure.
kind of city.
Yeah, Fairhope's just a tough market, because I mean you have like those juggernauts there that have been there for so long, like Mary Ann's, Panini Pete's, Julian's, places like that people have been going to for 15 years and like started taking their kids there, and people grew up eating there. So if you're like a new guy coming in and you're a new restaurant coming in that isn't doing burgers and stuff like that, it's like really tough to break in for sure.
Yeah, and the downtown pretty much closes down at 7 o'clock almost too. That kind of hurts a little bit. I think maybe some of the restaurant scene over there.
Yeah. They definitely go to sleep pretty early. I mean, and honestly, like Serial Killer was like the whole time it was kind of like born out of like desperation in a way. Like I was like that was the mistake I made there was like I didn't follow my gut. Like the moment, like I let landlords like tell me what to do, as opposed to just like saying, hey, this is what I want to do, and then if they said no, then like, okay, well, this isn't right for me.
Yeah.
So that was, that definitely was the case. I said I wanted to open a ramen shop here. They said no, and then I was like, oh, I'll do this. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just stuck to my guns. So, you live and you learn for sure.
Right. Well, a lot of things that you mentioned ramen, and you mentioned the bao buns. I mean, it's a lot of what you're doing at Slurp Society now.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So you think you finally, were you able to finally, I guess, go out on your own and do what you really want to do with Slurp Society, right?
Yeah, I've been kind of chasing a ramen shop my whole career, for sure. I mean, it was, when I was in culinary school, the first cookbook I ever bought was Momofuku, which is, for those who don't know, it's like a super famous ramen shop by David Chang in New York. He basically brought ramen, like as we see now, to the United States. So when I read his cookbook, like it just blew my mind. So it was just something that like I obsessed over for, my entire career, for close to 15 years now. So it's, so yeah, I mean, it definitely, like when I got the opportunity, when that spot opened up, I worked at Vaughn's Bistro. I was like the first guy that they hired for their new location. So like I worked there for like a year, so I knew how crazy busy it was all the time. So when that spot opened, like I approached my business partner, Winston Evans, and said like, hey, I think this could be something really cool. Like we should jump on it. And, we did. And like I said, like it just exploded.
Yeah.
So
had you been looking for a restaurant location prior to finding that location there?
We were kind of playing around with the idea of like a food truck. Ramen wasn't, once again, like it just wasn't the right time. Like I didn't think we were going to do ramen. Like I was playing around with like the idea of doing like the bao buns, like out of a truck. And, me and him kind of talked back and forth about it, and it kept on falling through. And like at the time I wasn't really, like I thought I was done cooking, because I was kind of thinking about doing a food truck, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to, because I just got done after Serial Killer closed. Like I was traveling and consulting. So that work kind of dried up a little bit, just from the need wasn't there as much. Like hotels and stuff started like hiring more people, so they didn't really need me to come out. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to go sell insurance or something, but I don't know. So, and then like we started talking about the food truck, and then that spot just happened to open up, and I was like, yeah, I mean, if I'm going to keep cooking, I got to jump on this. This is perfect for what we want to do. Yeah.
And that first weekend was crazy. I know when y'all opened up in that weekend, I had planned to come by the day that y'all actually closed, because you just sold out. You had to regroup, so y'all closed. What do you remember about that first weekend? If you remember it at all.
Chaos. Yeah, just utter chaos. Yeah, I mean, the first day, like, it's funny, like, you can plan and you can plan and you can plan, and then just that first day, because we had a soft opening the weekend before the grand opening, and it went really well. And we found like a couple kinks and stuff like that. And like that first night was crazy, and like food wasn't coming out, but it was like, it went well. People liked the food. And then that first day when we were like, oh, we're opening, grand opening, I mean, we just did not expect like what happened. I mean, there was a line just like down the block trying to get in, and it was, I mean, we just got smacked in the teeth like so hard, and it was it was great, and it definitely exposed a lot of holes, like in our game for sure. And we're just now starting to kind of get our feet under us a little bit for sure, because I mean our space is just so small and limited on storage, so like we're basically prepping an entire restaurant every single day, just trying to keep up. But yeah, that first weekend, yeah, it was. I did not see that coming at all. It was wild.
How have y'all had to pivot since then?
I mean, we thought we were going to be doing like, originally we opened, we thought we were going to be doing a lot of takeout, and we were going to be doing, I never ever wanted to do reservations, because like to me that just wasn't what like a ramen shop is. To me, like a ramen shop is like someone walking off the street, sitting down, slurping a bowl down, and bouncing. But it just turned into, okay, we need reservations for dinner. Like people want to hang out and drink at dinner. It's not like the churn and burn, like casual, like environment that like I originally thought it was going to be. It's definitely more. We definitely had to pivot on the service end, and like on the food end. I mean, we had so many things that we had planned, and like so many different things that we were prepping at the time that we just had to get rid of, and like completely change the preparation of like our fried chicken and like our ramen broth, and just things that we thought were gonna be easy. All of a sudden we're just like selling 80 gallons of broth in a week and 1,000 pounds of noodles, and we're going through like so much, like just up to my eyeballs of chicken thighs, so it's like, well, we gotta figure something out to make this easier. Or like the biggest thing, I'll tell you what the biggest thing was: the eggs. So like when we opened, I wanted to do these, like those classic 6-minute like marinated, like soy marinated eggs.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to do those so bad, but we were just, after the first week, I peeled like 180 dozen eggs, and I was like, yeah, there's no way. Like I'm gonna have to hire someone just to peel eggs. So like we had to like pivot and like do like these sous vide eggs that we're doing now, that we can just like literally just crack out of the shell, drop in the bowl, and they still have like the runny yolk, and they're still great, but it was just. Yeah, that was the biggest one, where we're just like, man, I did not see us going through like 180 dozen eggs in a week. Like, this is wild.
I love that location right there, because I think what's one thing that has been successful for you there, in my opinion, would be the fact that it is small. It's a small restaurant, and so it kind of feels exclusive, you know what I mean? So it's like, if you actually get in there, you'd like, it's like, oh man, I got in, I didn't have to wait 30 minutes, or, I wasn't turned away at the door or something like that. I think that's what's cool for locals. And then for out-of-towners, it just feels like, since it's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, it feels like you just came up on this secret spot, that like I said, it's off the beaten path. So I love that location there.
Yeah, I mean, it was just perfect for, like, that's what ramen shops are. That, it's like it's like you walk off the street, you sit in a stool, you slurp down a bowl, and, that's just the vibe we wanted. And the small restaurant's great because, for the reasons you said, it also, like, it kills me every time we have to turn someone away at the door. Like, it sucks, but there's just nothing we can do, like, it's like, even with the reservation system, like, people have been confused about that. Like, do I need a reservation? Do I not? And I was like, well, lunch is first come, first serve. Dinner, yeah, you need like a reservation, but we leave the bar open for walk-in. So like, oh great, we'll come sit at the bar. And I was like, well, there's only 10 seats at the bar, so like you gotta, even if you show up and you're a walk-in, like, you have to be prepared for like, oh hey, sorry, like, we're full right now. Luckily, there are some people who get pissy about it, but most people have been really cool. We just take their number, put them on a waiting list, and they're usually fine.
That's it. Just come back.
Yeah, just come back. I swear there's more noodles. I promise.
How did you think Mobile was ready for a ramen shop? It's like, really, I don't think no other restaurant's been, kind of toying with the idea of ramen. It's popular, like, you mentioned New York. I don't know when that was that David Chang kind of got started in New York, but it still feels like, we're kind of late to the scene, right? Mobile is a little bit late to the scene. How did you feel like, or how did you think that Mobile was ready for this?
Well, there's been other restaurants that have, like, thrown like a ramen bowl on their menu and as like a special, or, there's like been some like sushi places. They'll have like a ramen on their menu or whatever. But you know, like it really started like even when I was at Serial Killer. I remember we did like a ramen like pop up night one night, and it was way more successful than like we thought it was going to be. It made more money than just our normal operating hours. Like it just went really well. So I was like, okay, there's something here with the ramen thing. And, you know, just there's not really any, besides like, you know, your sushi and like your hibachi places, there like aren't really any like solid Asian restaurants like in town to my knowledge. And there's not really one downtown at all. So I was like, I mean, people love like Asian style food. I mean, I knew that with, you know, Vons. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so if I'm able to like capitalize on that and just do, you know, do the ramen thing, you know, the bao buns, all of that, I think it'd be really successful. Because I mean, it's just like ramen is just, I mean, we sell a bowl for like $14.95 right now, and it's a pound of food, you know, broth and noodles and like all the toppings. So I mean, it just warms your bones and like fills you up, you know. So it's just, I think, you know, people want like a good meal for a decent price, and you know, they can leave with their bellies full, you know.
I think timing really helped you when you mentioned that warm bowl. You know, timing. We're opening up in November.
Yeah.
You know, I think we had a couple cold spells, you know, in December.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah,
I think that helped out too.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens when it's, you know, 1,000 degrees outside. We're gonna have to like figure out like do like some sort of like cold noodle dish, or you know, figure something out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, that'll make it even more exciting, I think.
For sure.
Is see what you're gonna do. You know, I just like I said, you know, just from kind of following you a little bit, I know you're not just gonna keep the same thing going for the entirety. I know you're gonna change some things up and add some new things to the menu as well.
Yeah. Like I think, you know, like the menu that we have now, there's gonna be a lot of things on there for sure that are gonna stick around. Like the Slurp OG and like the, you know, Battleship Curry and some of the bao, like our chicken bao and like stuff like that. I mean, we can never get rid of those. Or our Brussels sprouts, can never get rid of those. So things like that are going to stay. Like I thought we were going to be doing. That's another thing that we had to pivot on. I thought we were going to be doing like just way more specials than we've been doing. But you know, it's just been a fight just to keep up with like the food that we are currently serving. So it's, you know, I'd rather serve people really solid food than like trying to like change the menu all the time. I think I've made that mistake before. Like, let's keep a handful of like the stars, then we can kind of bring in the bench players. You know what I mean?
Right, like that. You mentioned the Brussels sprouts, and I got to ask you about the Brussels sprouts, because that was the one thing that when my wife and I went, that's the best Brussels sprouts I've ever had. And we've talked about that on the last podcast episode. It got brought up, and yes, we did try to pronounce the furikake, which I'm probably just totally botched that as well.
No, furikake, yeah. But it's the okonomiyaki Brussels sprouts. Yeah, that's the name of the dish.
But that's the game changer, man. And love those Brussels sprouts. So I had to tell you about that. But what about as far as like your noodles and your ingredients? You kind of dive in on some of that a little bit. Like what distinguishes that?
Yeah, so the noodles have been like a huge issue for us, because it was just sourcing noodles has been super hard, because we just go through so many of them all the time. So it's been like originally we were working with this company based out of Portland that were making these like incredible like handmade, you know, ramen noodles made with like buckwheat flour and rye, and they were just so good, but they just could not keep up with like how many noodles we were going through. Like I remember the first week I bought 100 pounds of noodles, and I was like, oh, this will get us through the week or whatever. 100 pounds of noodles gone in a day, you know, like just gone. And I was like, well, they had to like overnight ship us, you know, noodles. And it was all of a sudden they're like, we cannot give you 1,000 pounds of noodles a week. We just can't do it. And like it'll be a 7-week lead time. You know, I was like, well, that's impossible. Like, I have to have noodles, right? So, because originally, like, the plan was to make them. Like, I really wanted to make the noodles, but we just don't have the room in our current space to do that. So right now I'm working with like Saigon Market on Cottage Hill. Like they order noodles for us that we use that are really solid. As for like our other ingredients, we work with local vendors, and like we're trying to work more with like some local farms like Cooper Farms and like Mushroom Mantan. We're trying to use guys like that. But yeah, the ingredients are really important to us for sure. I mean, we use Wagyu for our little smash burger bao, like our banh mi smash burger. We use Duroc pig bones for like our broth. We definitely spend the money on getting like better ingredients, and we probably don't charge what we should, for sure. I mean, like, because prices are going up like crazy all the time. Like just prices on things like eggs and green onions that we use so much of. So I mean, we do our best for sure to use the best.
So what do you think Slurp Society is going to be like in 5 years? Where do you think it's heading?
I mean, Slurp Society, I mean, I would love to open up more concepts for sure. Maybe like open up another Slurp Society somewhere. But I think the big picture goal for the company is more, start going into the realm of like a hospitality group where we have, it's not just Slurp Society. We have like another concept here, another concept there. That's definitely the goal. I mean, with Slurp Society, like I don't see myself, moving to a bigger space or anything like that. I think being small and intimate is like an important part of the experience for sure. Hopefully we'll start making our own, like figure out a way to make our own noodles and like things like that to strengthen the brand and like strengthen the quality of what we do. That's definitely where I see it kind of going in the next few years for sure.
How do you kind of balance the fact that, guy that grew up in Mobile owning a ramen shop? Do you get any kind of pushback from, people that say that, I guess because you're not Asian yourself? How do you balance that?
I mean, there's definitely been people who've come into the restaurant like, well, I was in Japan and like,
right.
this isn't like the traditional ramen, or like people who come into the door expecting like, quote unquote traditional ramen. And what I would say to that is like, ramen itself is like the only food in Japan that doesn't have any rules, right? Like in Japan, sushi, like tempura, like even soba, like all those things have strict rules that they follow. Like ramen has always been like the food of like the rebel over there. Like, the only difference is like, if it happens in Japan, it's a new style. If it happens over here, it's not traditional, right? So, like people have said that to me before in the restaurant. And what I tell them was like, man, I am a white dude from Mobile, Alabama, right? Like, I'm not trying to be traditional in any way. Like, I have respect for it, but that's not what we're doing here. I'm just making food that like I really love and food that I think tastes really good, and I have a really solid staff that like does the same thing, that care about just making food that we would eat, because at the end of the day we're a bunch of line dogs who've been working in kitchens for 15 years, and like we're like what do we want to eat after a shift, that's the plan. So yeah, I mean, it's just I'm just trying to bring people the stuff I love, and that's really it. I don't really care about like the traditional part of it personally. Yeah,
well, and you're killing it, man. You are. So I love what you're doing, and I know everybody else is too that I've talked to. Next segment of the podcast is called Meat and Three. And Meat and Three is where I'm going to ask you just kind of three kind of rapid fire questions a little bit, and so we'll see where that goes. All right, so you've got we talked about, you've got a pretty expanded palate compared to most people.
Yeah.
So give us a restaurant outside of Mobile, but within driving distance that we all need to go to.
Vestige by Alex Perry in Ocean Springs. Like he was like ran Noja for a little bit. He also like, I don't know if you remember SciShow.
Yeah.
He like opened SciShow with Shockley Diggs.
Okay.
and he's been nominated for like Best Chef South, like for the James Beard for a few years, I believe. But his food is just next level. It's so good. It's a little fancy, so like forewarning. But I mean, it's so good. Like the stuff he does there, like blows my mind. His wife is Japanese, so like the cool thing they do is like anything Southern on the menu comes from her, and anything Japanese on the menu comes from him. He's a white boy from Mississippi, you know. So like the way they like the lens that they look through food is really cool. But yeah, I would definitely, if you're trying to impress your man or your lady, you gotta go check that place out.
All right,
for sure.
Yeah, you talked me into it. I gotta go check that out.
You gotta do it.
All right, that's good stuff. What's a pet peeve you have in the restaurant industry?
Oh man, how much time you got? There's a bunch. What's reviews? I think reviews are a big one.
Reviews they're tough. They're really tough on restaurants, man.
Yeah, I try my best to talk to as many tables as I can, like in a day, right? And like 99% of the time, if I'm like, hey guys, how was everything? Everything good? And I get a yeah, it was great. If you don't like something, or something's just not for you, it's like, just tell me. Like, it's fine. Like, I'll make you something else. Like, we'll figure it out together. Like, you know, things happen. Like, if your noodles came out like a little soggy, like, well, you know, we just made 600 other bowls of ramen. Like, I'm sorry that one messed up. Like, we'll fix it for you, you know? Like, and just, I wish people had a little bit more, like, empathy and compassion because, you know, me and my business partner, we've put everything on the line to open this up. And it's like, and we're new, too. It's like, you know, we're working out some kinks. Like, you know, give us a break a little bit.
Right.
You know, like you know, we'll do whatever we can to make you happy. We want you to have a good time. We want you to be happy. That's why we're doing it. So just, you know, give us a break sometimes.
100%. And I think that's what's so, you know, especially with a mom and pop restaurant where you've got the owner that's working in the restaurant, that there's no better time to approach them than while you're there, to confront, you know, whatever went wrong during your meal.
100%.
You know, it's not like a chain restaurant where, you know, you're not going to see the managers probably change hands weekly or monthly.
Yeah.
Something like that. Where, so I agree with you, man. The reviews are.
Yeah,
tough.
I mean, I'm so thankful that people want to eat our food, right? And like, there's so many people also that are dependent on me for like their livelihood too now, right? People who work for me. So it's like, I want nothing more for people who come in there to have a good time, to love the food, to be like, man, I gotta go back, like tell their friends about it. I want that. So it's like if that doesn't happen for you, like just say so.
Yeah.
And I'll do everything in my power to fix it. That's all you gotta do. You don't have to. You don't say, oh, it was great, and then go on Yelp and leave me a 1-star review for like, oh, the broth was cold. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, you know, I could have fixed that.
Yeah. No, it drives me crazy too. I could probably do an entire podcast on that too.
I know, me too.
It drives me crazy.
I know, I could talk about it for hours.
Everybody reads the reviews, but not everybody leaves the reviews either. You know, so
yeah.
Everybody go leave a 5-star review, Slurp Society, right now. That's your homework.
Do it.
Because, like you said, you know, most people do rely on those when they're picking their restaurant, especially out of towners. They do look at those reviews. All right, got to move on from the reviews.
Gotta do it.
All right, so what would you choose for your final meal?
Ooh, man. There's this food truck in Austin, Texas called Spicy Boys. They do like this like Asian style like fried chicken there that blew my mind when I went to Austin, and I think about it all the time. And like a dirty little secret is like our chicken bao is a little bit inspired by them. So
nice.
It's like they're fried chicken, and like even I'll take my mom's fried chicken too. I love my mom's fried chicken, but like fried chicken is like I could eat it all the time. Like I would definitely have that, I think, and like that with with a side of like some sort of noodle. I think I would have to do.
I like it.
Yeah,
that's my kind of meal too.
Yeah, me too.
One of our tour guides, Lee, he's going to Austin this weekend, so I'm gonna text him about this.
Yeah, Spicy Boys, Leroy and Lewis is another really cool me and my wife went for my birthday, and we didn't sit down at a restaurant the whole time we were there. We were just at food trucks for 3 days. Their food trucks there are insane. All
right, this remind me, I got to ask you a fourth one. So what are some other cities that you enjoy going to that have an awesome food scene?
Some good ones. I think. If we're going across the pond, Copenhagen's insane. They're super cool. Me and my wife went there for our anniversary, and their food there is wild. It's so good. Over here, I really like. Like I said, Austin's really awesome. There's Arizona that actually has been blowing up. That has a lot of Phoenix, Arizona. They have a lot of cool stuff. I think those are really where I've had the best meals in a while has been at those places for sure.
Cool. What do you think? What do you think Mobile needs to do to get to those kind of places? We got some really good restaurants, especially downtown, and I think we can compete with places like I've been to Savannah and eaten all the good restaurants there, and in Asheville, Chattanooga, places like that are kind of known for an up and coming food scene. I don't think Mobile kind of gets that same credit, but
how did I forget about Nashville?
Nashville,
I know,
yeah,
that's a bummer. I don't know how I missed that, but yeah, I think it's just more business owners have to be willing to take risks. They can't. Not every restaurant that opens up has to be a southern restaurant with a twist. It doesn't have to be that. And I think people here. What I've learned from Slurp Society the short time we've been open has been I get so many people that didn't even know what ramen was that come in and think it's and love the food. I think people here are I think some people here are definitely yearning for something new instead of just the same old stuff that's opening. How many filet, mashed potatoes, asparagus, and red wine reduction do we need? How many, blackened, grouper, do we need? I think there's definitely room here. I think it's just going to require some more chefs to kind of take that risk for sure.
Yeah. All right, last segment of the show is called Chris's Dishes. And this is where I talk about the best dish that I've had the last week. And then I'll turn it over to you, and you can share maybe the best dish you've had lately. And this weekend was Art Walk. Friday night was Art Walk, and I had 4 kids with me. My wife had left me for the evening with 4 kids. I've got 3, and we inherited an extra one. It was freezing cold. We came down here. It was the Lego night Art Walk. And so, my kids love Legos, so we came downtown. And like I said, it was freezing. So we really didn't want to... I was kind of ready to get in the car and go somewhere. So we left downtown. I didn't want to sit outside, anything like that. So I chose Big Time Diner. That's where I took the kids.
Big Time
Diner.
Nice.
Which meat and 3 kind of runs in with that too. Food was good, but what really caught my attention there was the gumbo. And on the menu it said Mobile's best gumbo, and I'm a gumbo guy, and so I got the gumbo, and it did not disappoint. Seafood gumbo, really, really good. There was several pieces of shrimp in each bite. Now, I don't know if I'm ready to put it up there with Royal Scam and Winsel's, in that category, but it really, really did. I guess it really exceeded my expectations, and so I guess that's why it'll be my dish.
Yeah, I guess you don't go to Big Time Diner and expect seafood gumbo.
No, you don't expect that. So it was really, really good. So what's a good dish you've had lately?
I have to give a shout out to Hammered Cow at the Insider. The Hammered Cow, burgers are deceptively tough to nail and be super good. And I think they have the best burger in Mobile right now. I think their burger is just so good, so solid. I think I just got their I want to say I just got their classic, like I forget what it's called, but
like the hammered burger, I think is what, or is it the hammered cow or the hammered burger, something like that?
Burger, something like that. Yeah, I think I just got their like classic burger with some fries, and like their burger was just killer. It was so good.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I would recommend that to anybody who's looking for a good burger for sure.
You mentioned Ox Kitchen over in Fairhope. Hammered Cow kind of reminds me of that same kind of, I feel like they're kind of on that same trajectory, you know, starting out in the food hall, making one of the best burgers in town. So I'm with you. I agree. I love Hammered Cow.
Yeah, I wish them all the success because I mean they're like it looks like just a super small team, and they're back there just making like just a grade A burger for sure.
They are. Yep. Adam over there's doing a good job.
For sure. Yeah.
Yep. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the podcast. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, buddy. Me too.
Tell us, before we wrap up, location, hours, how to follow you on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff.
Yeah, we're on 69 St. Michael Street. Right by like Ruby Slipper and the Battle House Hotel, like all those places. Our hours right now are 10:30 to 2:30 for lunch Tuesday through Saturday, and then we also do dinner Friday and Saturday nights 5 to 9. Pretty soon though, exclusive for the podcast. I wouldn't say this anywhere else, but yeah, pretty soon we're probably going to be expanding our hours. More dinners are probably coming because people are asking for it a bit. And then just follow us you can find us at Slurp Society on Instagram and Facebook. Just give us a follow. We post a lot on there. So I look forward to seeing everybody for sure.
Yep. I look forward to heading back that way very soon. Wade, thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for having me.
All right.